First of all, I think I was a little bit apprehensive about going. Once I got over there, I saw that I was really glad that people had given. I think the whole time we were there, the whole 2.5 weeks, that they only took a shower once. And a lot of the kids had lice, and a lot of them had their heads shaved because of the lice. And almost all the kids had, their shoes were in a sad state or non-existent. A lot of them were barefoot, and they would do their chores barefoot, and their feet had sores. Most of the kids' feet looked pretty bad and had sores. And that was one of the cool things that we did when we were there. Michelle and I, it was actually Michelle's idea, washed some of the kids' feet. We got a basin of soapy water and just like clipped toenails and washed the kids' feet. And they liked that, and it was fun to do because their feet were really dirty. But also just because, I don't know, it was nice to do that for them. There were a couple kids. There was one girl in particular that I connected with. Her name was Ola. Whenever we saw each other, we connected, and we would hold hands and sit next to one another and hug and stuff and cuddle. And I was glad that I got to have that connection with her because I don't know, she looked like she needed to be comforted. And I noticed on her hand and arm she had places where she had cut herself. And that made me really sad. And I just think the hardest part to me is to know that those kids are going through a lot of mental anguish and emotional anguish because things are so hard, and that there's nobody there to like comfort them or to relieve that for them. I hoped that I was able to impart some comfort to her. I mean, from the Bible, God talks about himself as being someone whose heart is with widows and orphans and whose eye is on them, and who calls his people to care for widows and orphans. And I felt like when we were there that there was an extra measure of grace for us, not because of who we are or necessarily even because we were putting on a Christian camp for the kids, but because we were coming alongside orphans and tapping into the abundant measure of grace and goodness that God has towards them. And I felt like when we were there that we got to experience that. And it makes me want to do more of that and want more people, not necessarily to go on a Little Lambs camp, although that's good, but just to be mindful of those in need, especially widows and orphans. I just felt lifted up by God to be able to do the small things that I had to do, even though there were all those factors that were potentially against us or could have overwhelmed us. I didn't feel overwhelmed. And I think that that's because of what the Lord did. So I think I was like totally thankful that God answered my question about whether it was worth it, the money that we spent to go. Because I think it was worth, every penny. And I really was humbled and overwhelmed by how I just felt like the people who gave for us to go on the trip, if they could have seen how much what they gave, how it was multiplied to the people who received because they gave. I just really was kind of stunned by that thought when I was there, that how grateful I was to the people who gave, and how it was worth so much more even than what they did give. And I think it was better than any investment you could ever make with your money.
Ken. 3, 4.
It is important, it is imperative for us to be reminded of it in that very raw, can't escape it experience. People are often daunted by the numbers. The numbers are good to see, this many people are hurting. Who can help them all? And that the flip side, you need to see one, two, three, whatever individuals that you can latch on to. That's your own personal thing. You can help that person because you can't help everyone. And I was only there for a week and a half, and I don't know what I could have done for those kids other than just be there and play with them and pray for them. But I know that God is good and that He loves those children and that He can take care of them when we can't.
Katya has a foot that's kind of curly. So one foot is, I think, longer than the other, or one leg is longer than the other. And the thing about Katya is she kind of reminds me of me when I was little. She is very kind of vulnerable, and one story about her that took place near the end is that I was looking at her and I was like, gosh, what's going to happen to her when she gets old or older? Like, is she going to get taken advantage of because she can't run very fast? Is she going to have health problems because she's not able to exercise? Or are people going to pick on her because her one foot is weak, so she hobbles a little bit when she walks and she can't run? I thought, maybe I've been praying for the wrong thing for these kids all along, because to be safe is very boring. And it's probably not the way God intended us to live in very safe worlds where nothing happens and no one gets hurt, because I think to live a little dangerously is probably to grow more.
We were sitting there in one of our large group meetings, the large gatherings, and there was a particular boy named Sasha who's quiet. We're sitting there, and then he would come sit next to me, and he'd put his head on my shoulder. And that's not what an 18-year-old man's supposed to do, right? Just his deep longing to be loved or to love because he never got it growing up. How sad it is to be abandoned and to have no love growing up, just to be in that place of just trying to just grasp for love elsewhere because you're not getting it at home. I don't know, it's how it's not supposed to be this way, the depravity, the fall of man. And that's very much my Ukraine experience. That what exemplifies or typifies my Ukraine experience.
In terms of how I felt, I experienced God. I think again and again I was amazed by how lavish His love is and how much He wants us to know that, and how much He wants the kids we worked with to know that. Throughout the trip, I felt so loved by God, and I think I went expecting that I'd be loving on the kids all the time. And I think God always surprises us with that He wants us to be surprised by His love and His grace and His just the amazing things He does. For myself, I found that God was teaching me about trusting Him and not relying on my own strength and not relying on my need to have everything, or my desire to have everything go well, or go easily, I guess. I felt like God specifically was teaching me just to focus on the person at hand and not worry about however anyone else is doing things. I think God was reminding me of just how He's physically with each of us, and He's with each of the kids. He's with Marika. She has another year in the orphanage before she goes away. He's with Vatim, who's 15 and still seems really young. He's with Ola, who has a lot of things that I think are going to be difficult for her. And He's with them in a really tangible way. And I think that has been a comfort to me since getting home, because it was hard to leave. It was hard to say goodbye. It was hard to know that I was going back to my life, and it would be easy to just kind of get back into it here. It's funny, I feel like God started something in my heart through this trip, and I don't know exactly what it is. But I feel like He showed me a little bit about how He wants His kingdom here to be, and how He wants us to love each other and live differently. And I have no idea what that is going to look like in my life going forward, but I feel like He's doing something new.
Yeah, the first day, I mean, I remember seeing them fight, and I remember just feeling like an outsider, and then having all these kids who were, I don't know when the last time they showered, they smelled. You know, I was really worried. We were told that there were a couple cases of lice before we got there, so I'm like so paranoid. I'm a germaphobe, and I don't like being touched, and I definitely don't want lice. And so when these kids who hadn't showered, who had snot running down their face, who were, I don't know, last time they washed their hands, or, and you know, they may have lice, or like jumping on top of me and hugging me and wanting to be my friend, and I'm trying like my best like to respond and show them affection, but inside I was just thinking like, man, I don't know if I could take this. Like at the end of the first day, I just remember thinking, there's no way I can last another 2 weeks. There's no way. It would just be, yeah. I just remember praying like, just God, deliver me, help me through this time, because I don't think that I can do it. But God is good, and I would have never expected to have the feelings that I did when I left, as I did, because you know, I went from being at this camp wanting nothing more than to leave and get away from these kids, and you know, feeling just completely out of my element, completely uncomfortable. And then, you know, at the end of our time, I just didn't want to leave. And even now, you know, I think I look back, and almost every minute of the day I think about those kids. I think about the relationships that I had, and I miss them so much. I just want nothing more than to be back there, just holding them, or playing soccer with them, or playing volleyball, or swimming with them. And then, you know, I keep talking about showing the kids love, but the love that they show you, and the acceptance that they show you, and the barriers that they don't have for showing love, I think taught me a lot about people. And if I can come to the point of myself and say, I can't do it on my own, I need you, Lord. There's another dimension of people looking at me, or other people seeing me, and my pride of, even though I realize that I need to be dependent on God or dependent on somebody, and I can acknowledge that, I don't want other people to see that, you know, and I don't I'm embarrassed by what that dependency or that love or that affection looks like. And these kids did not have that, and it really just taught me a lot that it's more important that I am dependent on others and I'm dependent on God, that I'm vulnerable. I can't help them in the way that I want to help them, but God can. And I had to release the kids over to them and release them into the care of God, and I just pray that they open themselves up to Him.
Sasha, кажи йому God, кажи God,
God
bless
bless
you.
you.
I love
Love
you.
you.
I
I
miss
miss
you.
you.
I
I
kiss
kiss
you.
you.
Kiss you.
I think that's it. That's all I'm going to say. So, adios, amigos. Spoken in noche, as they say in Ukraine.